Hi, Martha friend. Good to see you.
Hello, Bill Howard. Nice to see you as well.
And let me say, I know how busy you are, so I'm happy you've taken just a few minutes to chat with me about Lawrence Neighbors Together, and a little fledgling effort here in our community that we both love, and we devote a lot of energy to it. So I thought maybe I could ask you a few questions and let me hear a bit of your story. Now, my understanding is you've grown up in Princeton. Tell me a little about your Lawrence history.
We were very blessed to have help to purchase a house in Lawrence around 12 years ago.
Mhm.
I did grow up in Princeton, and I had the opportunity to start teaching in one of the elementary schools there about 30 years ago, and I'm still there. And so I have continued that. But 12 years ago, we started building our life here in Lawrence and getting to know this amazing, very expansive community of diverse folks. And we have just been so grateful. My husband, since the pandemic, has been working from home. And so he's gotten to know another part of Lawrence, just the daily life. We have three
Mhm.
kids.
Mhm.
And we have just been so, so happy to be a part of this Lawrence community.
Now, in a relatively short time in Lawrence,
Mhm.
you seem, to me at least, to have developed so many good friendships. How does that happen?
Well, I have to tell you something about myself, that my four siblings, there are five of us all together, four siblings used to refer to me as Sticky as a little kid. And then as a young adult, because I love engaging with others. I think that's what life is all about. And
Mhm.
so really wherever I go, whether it's the grocery store, walking down the street, hanging out, getting a coffee somewhere, I am always headed up looking for eye contact and looking to make connections. And so that started from the first day we were here, trying to meet as many people as possible. And there are some wonderful people out here.
Wow. Now, I've been in Lawrence since 1979, but we met relatively recently. Do you sort of remember how we met?
I do. I think you pulled into my backyard and I was giving you a Black Lives Matter sign to put in your front yard.
And that's really how we first met.
Yes.
And then we discovered a mutual friend.
Yep.
And then when I want to get in trouble, I know I can always reach out to Martha Friend.
And you
You remember
called.
that?
I remember.
Well, you remember that day the demonstrators were marching from Montclair or someplace,
Yes.
and they were walking through the village, and you dropped whatever you were doing, and you came and you stood with them. And from time to time, when I'm in touch with Larry Ham, who was the principal leader, he always asks about you.
I'm honored.
Yeah, how was that lady, he says, who was with us that day, and who was so eager to make sure we had something to drink?
Yep.
And your care for people, which is reflected exactly in this point, is so evident as I've had the chance to be around you and watch you do what you do. Uh, what do you like about Lawrence, and what would you like to see improved about it? And how can people help to bring about the kinds of change that you envision?
So let's think about the first part, right? What do I like about it? I
Mm-hmm.
referenced before the expansiveness of Lawrence, and I didn't really understand how large it was
Mm-hmm.
until I started passing out Black Lives Matter yard signs to anybody who would put one up. And the different communities within this one community is astounding. Um, and the history that is deeply felt by some who have lived in these different communities for so long, I think that's something that's very, very special about this town. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was number one. It was and realized that I needed to get to know folks in all of these different communities found in Lawrence. Um, but also in talking with folks in these different communities, not everybody feels like Lawrence is there to support them, or they feel welcome in every single other aspect or community. And so I think some of the work that we try to do with Lawrence Neighbors Together is not only just bring people together to be in community, but also to say, what is it that you need? And how can others who are standing right here help to make that happen?
Well, you know, it's very interesting when we talk about Lawrence being diverse. That word, by the way, it has very little content. You know, people say, "Hey, uh, I want change," and I always say, "Well, change is neutral. You have to fill the cup. What kind of change are you thinking about?" And having been in Lawrence all that time, as you know from getting to know me, I mostly slept here and went grocery shopping here. And when my kids were in school, which seems like 100 years ago, they drew me into certain kinds of school-related activities. But in many ways, I didn't get to know my neighbors. And you are one of the founders of Lawrence Neighbors Together. And I think you're discovering that there are a lot of Bill Howards around, people who sleep here, people who quote unquote like the community, but know very little about it. And I guess it was in the spring of 2022, a few of us decided to have coffee down at the village Starbucks and talk about things we might do together. We started with a call for our township council to support a state initiative in support of a resolution to study the issue of reparations. It sort of started like that.
Absolutely. And look how many people came. Do you remember? We started out so small, and then it just built exponentially with people who wanted to engage just around that issue.
Well, I remember when you persuaded us, along with your friend Fred Vereen, to go to the council and talk about this thing. The council eventually did pass a very respectable resolution. But in the process, we would go to these council meetings. And what fascinated me the most is we sort of knew who our little group was. We knew who the advocates were who were likely to speak on our issue. But there were people there to speak about other issues, hearing what we were talking about, signed up with us.
Absolutely.
And now how many people are affiliated with Lawrence Neighbors Together these days?
We have about 200 people who have asked to receive our monthly, twice a month email updates. And then we have more than 100 people. I want to say about 150 people on our Facebook page. They don't always sync up. Some people are just receiving information from us on the Facebook page and the opposite. And just, I remember quickly realizing I always had to have contact information and also information about Lawrence Neighbors Together with me, because there was always somebody at events we went to. Wait, tell me more about this. I'm interested in supporting my neighbors.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot if you don't remember it, exactly. But we've sponsored a number of gatherings to talk about issues which are sort of emblematic of what we want to stand for.
Yes.
What are some of those?
I think it's been about 10 so far. We talked about affordable housing because there were so many members who said, I hear talk about whether we should build more or we have enough. And so we brought some experts in. We talked about this health curriculum, sex ed specifically in the schools, because again, we had members, even some candidates who are running for Board of Ed who seemed to not be sure about what is actually supposed to be taught and what is being taught. So again, we brought experts in. We had our wonderful authors talk about some of the books and the history of African Americans in Hopewell and in Lawrence. I mean, it's really been across the board. We've had we create opportunities for conversations based on what we hear from our members.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And hopefully, as people hear about what is going on, and you've been very central in expanding the reach of this group, hopefully more neighbors will come together, and we could see this in our recent second annual picnic. New people are hearing and coming around, huh?
They sure are. That was what was so wonderful, is that people were there for the first time. Hey, I heard somebody talk about this Lawrence Neighbors Together group.
Mm-hmm.
And in our next email update, we have some wonderful quotes from folks who are new to us, and they wanted to share what it meant to them to be at that picnic. So those will come out in our next email update.
Well, I think, hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of people are going to see us talking like this. What would you have them know as we close out?
I want them to know that there is power in just reaching out to their neighbors, right? So there are so many people out there that they might not be aware of that want what's best for them and their family. And so one opportunity to kind of get to know who those folks are, if you live in Lawrence, or it doesn't matter zip code, you're an ally, is to reach out to us and join our group, because we are wholly about lifting each other up and making the world a better place. And we're out there. I think sometimes people feel very lonely these days and cut off from others. And I think the work that we're trying to do is really to connect. This is all about deep and meaningful connections, which could bring which brings change.
This is a very opportune moment for us to chat, because Lawrence is about to undertake a new strategic plan, I guess it's called, which is going to shape the future of the township for some time to come. Is it called strategic plan, or?
The Lawrence master plan has to be updated. Yep.
Exactly.
Every so often has to be updated. And our municipality is looking for public input. So we don't have those dates quite yet, but very soon. So we need to start thinking about, what is our vision for Lawrence? Maybe we think we're doing really well in certain areas and we want more of that. Or there are some places that we would like some change and we want to shift a direction. So I hope our group will help members to be part of that process.
Now, might you be willing at some point, as we get further down the road here, might you be willing to come back and talk about the progress we're making in not only this issue, but some other things that we're concerned about?
Absolutely. I am honored to be here with you. And I do hope somebody's going to be interviewing you soon.
Oh, my Lord. I will say that several of your colleagues have agreed to follow you in this conversation, and they're going to shed more light. Do you see how I avoid that subject you just brought up?
We'll come back to it, though. We'll come back.
Oh. Well, Martha, I can't thank you too much, because you're a gem in our neighborhood, and we thank everyone who's taken the time to watch us talk about Lawrence Neighbors Together. So hang on and keep working. And of course, I know I don't have to tell you that.
Thanks so much, Bill.
Thank you.